Let's discuss the practices of a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva mind training is divided into two approaches: cultivating the mind for benefiting others, and the mind with aspiration for enlightenment. First is mind training with the sincere aspiration to benefit all sentient beings. Let's follow the instructions of the Venerable Atisha. This is explained in great detail in the 7 points of mind training. It's also extensively explained in the preliminary practice manual. In Atisha's teachings, train the mind through 7 key instructions, beginning with recognizing all beings as your mother. The second method follows Shantideva's instructions, training the mind through exchanging self and others. This content will be discussed later in the commentary on the practices of a bodhisattva. Here I'll explain the essence of both approaches, the methods for cultivating loving kindness and compassion. Loving kindness means focusing on any sentient being who lacks happiness and wishing them to possess happiness, hoping all beings possess happiness. And the causes of happiness is called great loving kindness. Ordinary loving kindness is wishing one being to be happy. This is loving kindness. Great loving kindness wishes all beings to possess happiness and its causes. Similarly, when focusing on a sentient being suffering various torments, wishing him to be free from suffering and attain happiness is called compassion. Differently, hoping all sentient beings are free from all the suffering and the unwholesome causes of suffering is called great compassion. Here, what we should know is that compassion simply wishes one sentient being to be free from suffering. This is compassion. As for great compassion, it wishes all beings to be free from suffering and its causes. Everyone should remember this distinction between great loving kindness and great compassion. We should remember it well. This is the method for contemplating the suffering of all sentient beings. If you contemplate yourself being tormented by suffering, renunciation will definitely arise. Similarly, if you imagine others being tormented by suffering as well, then compassion will arise. Great compassion is the foundation of the Mahayana. Throughout the path to Buddhahood, it's crucial at the beginning, middle, and end stages. In our hearts, we should silently think, may all sentient beings possess happiness and be free from suffering. If we always think this way, this is the conduct of the Mahayana. Taking responsibility for benefiting others is the supreme motivation. Based on this, genuine bodhicitta arises. With this foundation established, one can generate authentic bodhicitta. Second is cultivating the mind with aspiration for enlightenment, recognizing that to truly benefit others, one must attain great enlightenment, and thus, from the depths of one's heart, generating the aspiration to achieve Buddhahood. Now, let me share some key instructions from the masters. This text contains various teachings from masters and different key instructions. Venerable Atisha said, cultivate loving kindness and compassion and stabilize bodhicitta. He also said, of all praiseworthy qualities, great compassion is supreme, and bodhicitta is the most excellent. Regarding Venerable Atisha, throughout his life, there are countless well-known stories about his cultivation of bodhicitta. Indeed, he had many famous accounts of cultivating bodhicitta. These stories are household names. When the Venerable was circumambulating the Vajra seat in India, Tara and the Ratful mother manifested as 2 women, one old and one young, conversing in a question and answer format. They explained that to quickly attain Buddhahood, one must practice loving kindness and bodhicitta. Through this, the Venerable's heart gained true understanding of bodhicitta. This story we have discussed many times elsewhere. We've mentioned it before. There was a yogi named Gyatse Choki. When he was 30, he requested teachings from Atisha. The Venerable said, from today, do not concern yourself with reputation. Do not worry about caste or social status, but solely cultivate loving kindness and bodhicitta. In fact, many of us in our later years should try our best to let go of many things, whether fame, our own caste, status, or wealth. We should sever all such attachments. We should wholeheartedly cultivate bodhicitta, practice emptiness, or engage in purification. This is absolutely necessary. Life is limited for everyone. I believe everyone knows this. If you are always swayed by external circumstances, I'm afraid, in brief life, there will be no chance for spiritual practice. So for us personally, if there's nothing particularly urgent, it's best to, for example, turn off phones for a day or even a week. Like at the monastery in my hometown, in their Buddhist college, the practitioners are allowed to use phones on Sundays, but other than that, their phones are turned off. They focus on practicing or learning. If we can manage to do this, things might be better. Otherwise, in our brief lives, we don't know when we'll have time for genuine spiritual practice. Following these teachings at 35, he achieved supreme realization. In just 5 years, he had achieved such excellent accomplishment. Geshe Dromtonpa said, one should frequently cultivate compassion in order to stabilize bodhicitta. He also said, bodhicitta is the cause for accomplishing great benefit for oneself and others. And there was also a great yogi who once said, there should be a teacher's teacher. Even if you have the meditative stability where drums beating beside your ears cannot disturb your concentration. When we meditate, whether it's the sound of large vehicles passing by, the beating of drums, or the blowing of conch shells, you remain unmoved. But if lack loving kindness and bodhicitta, you must purify day and night. Without bodhicitta, no matter how advanced your practice, you still need to confess and tame your mind. Geshe Gompawa also summarized this point in this way. The root of omniscience is the two accumulations. The root of the two accumulations is bodhicitta, and the root of bodhicitta is compassion. Buddhahood depends on cultivating the two accumulations. The root of the two accumulations is bodhicitta. Without bodhicitta, it won't work. But this bodhicitta begins with developing compassion for every sentient being. Venerable Potawa, in the Book of Examples, wrote, all actions of body, speech, and mind should be guided by bodhicitta. He illustrated compassion and similar qualities through examples. An old woman asked Geshe Potawa how he practiced this. She asked how the Venerable cultivated loving kindness. Geshe Potawa said, just like you dearly love your son Tölle. Tölle was that old woman's son. The old woman's son's name was Tölle. Just as you especially cherish Tölle, treat all sentient beings the same way. Previously, our practice was mostly theoretical, but these Kadampa Geshes, many great masters of Tibetan Buddhism, in their actual conduct would use real examples from daily life. When we hear it, we understand how to cultivate compassion and bodhicitta. For example, take someone you love very much and see how you treat them practice the same way. Even practicing for 100 days, you might not succeed. The old woman said, oh, that's very difficult. It seems she truly understood. She had indeed grasped this principle. This mainly teaches delightful loving kindness. Regarding compassion, when someone named Kaba Gyawa had a sore foot, then Dromtonpa said, if right now your elderly mother were being attacked by a pack of dogs in Rinang Dong, Rinang Dong is a place name with no one to help, what would you think? Even though he has a sore foot, he might not think much of it. No matter what, you would definitely limp over to save your poor mother in this situation. If you could develop this attitude, you hold to your mother toward all beings, like toward your mother, then when you see sentient beings suffering, compassion would naturally arise. If your mother were hit by a car elsewhere or bitten by a pack of dogs like this, we might not have time to tend to our own foot, but would immediately limp over to save her. We should be the same way. For any sentient being, whether they have a good or bad relationship with you, even if they treat you as an enemy, if there's a chance to save a sentient being and you do so, this is true bodhicitta. When discussing the generation of bodhicitta, young man Chelje asked, how does the Venerable cultivate bodhicitta? Geshe Porua said, rescue all beings from samsaric suffering and establish them in Buddhahood. He asked again, that requires tremendous courage. The Venerable replied, it seems this has been truly understood. Indeed, it requires courage. Ordinary people cannot accept this in their hearts. After generating Supreme Bodhicitta for the benefit of sentient beings, we do need courage or determination. What we call heroic resolve is actually a kind of courage. Without courage, how could it be called heroic resolve? Venerable Langri Tangpa also said, if one is very diligent in effort, then ultimately everything depends on courage, or we can say determination. Whether seeking enlightenment or practicing virtue is all about courage. Without courage, perhaps even worldly matters cannot be accomplished. That's true. Venerable Sharawa also said the same thing. To lay the foundation for omniscient Buddhahood, one must cultivate bodhicitta within one's mind stream. Venerable Sherpa also said, the lifeline of the path to liberation and omniscience, that is cultivating bodhicitta. Therefore, cultivate bodhicitta. Master Rinchen Gyangpa also said, without altruistic intention, aspirational and engaged bodhicitta cannot arise. Without altruism, aspirational and engaged bodhicitta cannot be accomplished. Without understanding the Mahayana, how important is compassion? Furthermore, Togmi Sangpo said, who abandons their own happiness and suffers for others' benefit. If someone can give up their own happiness and bear the suffering of sentient beings, if such a person abandons sentient beings, what use is it to obtain the Mahayana Dharma? It means if you abandon sentient beings, what's the use of attaining Mahayana teachings? If you help sentient beings, even without speaking of Mahayana, you've realized Mahayana. Therefore, to liberate limitless beings, generate bodhicitta, abandoning self-interest both directly and indirectly, and sincerely striving to benefit others is the mark of a noble being. Moreover, he himself made the cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta the core of his practice. We'll stop here.
Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye